Behaviors that are normal for gifted children are often misunderstood and later are taken to be an emotional disorder or a learning disability. This leads to difficulties and lifelong problems. While some gifted children are generally cooperative and easy, others may be feisty and challenging or spirited and strong-willed, and many people don't know how to react to these behaviors. Parents worry that discipline is going to stifle the child's spirit, and others fear that the children are going to be unmanageable and unpleasantable. So when children do not act quickly or comply, the adults many times misunderstand the reasons for these behaviors and they respond inappropriately, which actually worsens the problems. So we want to make sure that we give them an opportunity to question why and make them feel comfortable and secure for the understanding of the reasons, and then they become more happy to cooperate. Gifted children as infants have a high demand for attention, and people who are not around these highly intelligent children who constantly demand attention and answers and interaction, they assume that a child is really spoiled or poorly behaved. And parents really understand that their child has a high need for eye contact and direct continual interactions almost from birth. They seek interaction with other people, particularly those who are going to talk directly to them. They need to know that when the need for this interaction is consistently met for a gifted infant or a young child, that the child is actually going to become more confident, more trusting, and is going to demand less attention later. The interesting thing about gifted children is that 20% of them have reported as being seen to need less sleep than the average child. Some tend to be feisty, independent, and strong-willed, and they really stress out the importance of listening carefully. So many of these children are very active, and they just don't understand and don't get along with those structured, group-oriented activities. They just want time to decide. They want to be able to jump into their activities. However, when parents and educators are consistent and establish limits and show respect for the child's needs, these children can become more adaptable and cooperative as they mature. Easygoing and flexible is another description, and even though sometimes some children are stubborn or difficult, of course remember that not all children are the same, and this includes gifted children. Although some tend to be strong-willed, others may be more easygoing and flexible. So within their own interests, children are going to exhibit some incredible attention spans. And it seems almost if they don't hear what's being said because they're so engrossed in their own thoughts and their own activities. Many teachers or parents have had to actually touch a child or gain eye contact in order to pull them out of their intense concentration. And when that happens, these children tend to be offended almost because they've been distracted. So parents need to know how they can relate to these children and how to talk to them about a transition and moving on to a new activity. This goes right into these schedules and these transitions because these long attention spans of a gifted child lead to a very strong reaction to interruptions. However, they will respond well to schedules, especially if they can be part of the planning opportunity. They need a schedule, but they also need an opportunity to be part of that schedule. So parents and teachers need to use foresight, diplomacy, and good planning skills in order to really cope with these issues. Perfectionism can be a common characteristic among gifted children. However, knowing this, remember that perfectionism is not a characteristic in order to determine if a child is gifted. So many times these children will get a lot of feedback on how quick they are, and then they're going to have these extremely high expectations. In this way, many times parents or educators have really unknowingly encouraged perfectionism. Also, they tend to have very lofty goals, the child does. And no matter how we look at that, we need to help them that when they have difficulties and failures, that they can really learn for these opportunities. We need to encourage them to try things that are difficult instead of simply refusing to try things. For instance, one gifted child decided right very quickly at the age of 4 that he would not learn to ride a bike. Why? Too much risk involved and didn't want to fail after he had seen his own brother try try repeatedly for weeks to accomplish this. We want to make sure that we always respond best and allow them to realize that the choice is there. The best way to deal with perfectionism is using patience and encouragement. Some gifted children may actually have issues with authority, and they're going to look for authority figures to back them up. And when they don't get that reinforcement, they're going to lose some confidence and respect for those who are in power over them. And this can actually apply to some inappropriate school assignments as well as social situations. When we look at these children who are highly gifted, we need to remember that they do have many wonderful opportunities, and they also have many wonderful characteristics. They do have a high demand for attention as an infant, and it's interesting that a significant number of intellectual or highly gifted children were not toilet trained until older than age 3, and many of them were bedwetting or nighttime wetting well into their elementary ages. They tend to be strong-willed, but they can also be easygoing and flexible. Their concentrations and attention spans are very lengthy. They don't particularly enjoy having to deal with transitions unless they can be part of the planning and the schedules. Perfectionism can be an attribute, however, remembering that dealing with a gifted child as an authority figure to approach them with patience and understanding.